Welcome to Rooted in Retail After the Show. I'm Crystal Vilkaitis, and it is Tuesday night, 5 p.m. Mountain in Colorado. And this is our first ever After the Show. Now, I created this because I wanted to go deeper after the show. I wanted to talk to you, the listener, about what you are thinking about and what questions you have from this week's episode. And I don't know about you, but I listen to a lot of podcasts, and there's often something that I'm listening to, and I'm like, oh, I wish I could ask a question. I wish I could share my feedback. I wish we could go deeper on that topic. And that's exactly what we're going to do here on After the Show. I also want to get to know my listeners better. So by having you show up and chat in live with me and ask your questions and share your big takeaways, that just means the world. So for example, I see Mike, who's on my team, saying woo in the chat. I love that. I love connecting. So in case you cannot make it here to our live events, 5 o'clock, 5 Mountain on Tuesdays, this is being recorded and we're going to turn it into a podcast episode, which will go live on Thursdays. So you can catch up on what we're talking about. I have had many people say, I love Sundays because it's new episodes of Rooted in Retail. However, I want more episodes. And so this is your opportunity. And for example, for today's After the Show, we're going to talk a lot about experiences within your store. And I think, my goal of these After the Shows is to give you some really good value too. It's not about recapping the episode, it's about going deeper. It's about talking about even more topics and things that are triggered from this week's episode. So just so you know, it's not going to be like a bite-sized recap. These are going to be very different episodes, and I recommend that you listen to both of them. And then ideally you come here live with me. All right, so that is a little overview. Now I'm going to be a little amateur on this first one. I've got my notes to make sure that I'm covering everything. This is being live streamed into our Facebook group. Rooted in Retail has a Facebook group. We have over 600 members in the group. So if you are not a part of that group, this is where you can participate in conversations weekly with me and other listeners. And this is where you can tune in live. So go to facebook.com, search for Rooted in Retail for the group, and join us here. Now, this week's episode, my guest was Kathy Cruz of Savvy Shopkeeper. You might have listened to her podcast. That's how I first got in touch with Kathy. I was searching for retail podcasts, and she was one of the top rated ones. Love her. She co-owns a store with her sister, so she is a retailer, and she also has a membership site where she works with over 150 retailers, coaching them on their business. In this week's episode, we talked a lot about finances, knowing your numbers, mindset around finances, and we'll go a little bit deeper on that in this episode. But first, I want to share any kind of announcements that we have going on since this is real time. Often, when I'm recording the podcast, it's months ago. So, like 6 or 8 weeks previous to when this episode goes live. And so it's hard for me to talk about the real time stuff. So, on these Thursday after the show episodes, when they air on the podcast live here on Tuesdays, I'll share any timely updates with you. So, I've got two. First up, I'm going to be in Dallas at the Dallas Market Center this tomorrow, Wednesday, January 10th through the 12th. I am on a panel on Thursday speaking about social media and Instagram with another retailer, and I'm doing some live Rooted in Retail episodes where we're filming live on Friday at 9:30 at the Koi Pond. So if you've been to Dallas Market, you know what I'm talking about. They've got all the information on their website. But if you're going, I'd love for you to go to the seminar and or the live recordings. Give me a hug. Let's take a selfie. Let's talk. And I want to hear, what topics do you want to hear on the show? Do you want to be interviewed? Do you have a guest recommendation? Do you need help on anything? Like, please come say hi. I am very available at these shows. So I would love to see you and meet you in person. My second announcement is that on Monday, January 15th, and then Tuesday, the 16th, Wednesday, the 17th, I'm doing a 3-day transformational challenge. A 3-day challenge. It's all about transforming your mindset, your strategy, and how you do your social media, like a system for your social media. I've got brand new content that I'll be teaching. And I'm going to share how I have transformed as an entrepreneur and business owner and have seen some really amazing results and success and happiness and fulfillment in my life. I'm sharing it all, the personal, the business, in the 3-day challenge. It's live on that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. But if you register, because this is being filmed for podcasts, so if you're listening to this, you missed it's past January 15th, 16th, 17th, you can still go register at crystalmediaco.com/transform. And if you're live with me here on the chat, my team's going to put that in. So Dustin, here's your cue. You can put that link in and you'll still get the replay. We're going to keep that replay up until the end of January. We might keep it a little bit longer into February as well, depending on how many downloads we're getting of it. But that replay, it's completely free for you to attend. If you can come live the 15th through 17th, I would love to see you there live. All right, those are our announcements. I see some of you tuning in live with me here, which just be my team. This is our first ever after the show. And we're also we chose this time based on what our group members voted for. And so this is a little bit of a new time being in the evening. Usually our webinars are mornings, and I wanted it to feel a little like unplugged. If you're familiar with my show, Crystal Uncorked, I wanted it to sort of feel like more personal and connection, and doing that in the evening time felt more right for this type of setting. We might have some wine on the show. It's happy hour time, so we'll see. And honestly, it's kind of funny, when I was preparing for this episode today, I was thinking, I'm feeling very much like I'm going back to my roots in retail, because when I started, some of you know this story, how I got in the independent retail space is I was working for a company called Snap Retail. And my job was to teach social media to independent retailers. And I created a Snappy Hour. We were Snap Retail, it was Snappy Hour. And it was hosted on our Facebook page. I think it was like at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. I don't know, whatever time it was. It was like 5 or 6 p.m. Eastern. And for an hour, I would just sit on our Facebook page and answer people's social media questions. And I always had people show up. And then I incorporated that into my own membership as well. And so I feel like I'm getting back to my roots of showing up with you in the evening and being live and connecting with you here. So if you are live, chat in hello. If you're watching the replay on the group page, just chat in replay. I want to see your engagement. I want to see how we're feeling about these lives. Give me your feedback, chatting replay. Would love to see it. All right, let's talk about this week's episode. This is episode 48, like I said, with Kathy Cruz. And just for future reference as well, I'm going to sometimes have the guest on with me during these after the shows. So that'll be a lot of fun. But today it's just me. This is our first one, so I wanted to just do it on my own and see how it goes here. But there's a few things that I wanted to pull out and just talk a little bit deeper about Kathy's episode. One of those is towards the very end of the episode, when I'm talking about the resilience round, and I ask the question about what you think the future of independent retail is. My very last question. Kathy talks about experiences, and majority of my guests say experiences. And so for you, I think this is such an opportunity for us all to really look at how we're providing experiences in 2024. And with this episode with Kathy and with preparing for after the show here, I started thinking about different experiences that have really stood out to me. And one thing that really jumped into my head was at our conference, Evolve, we had a generational shopping panel. I aired that episode on the show. Maybe Dustin, you could do a quick search for me and see what episode number that was. It was the generational shopping panel from Evolve. But from that episode and from that panel, the panelists up there, especially the Gen Z and the millennial, was really wishing that retailers had things in their store that was very Instagrammable, like a place that they could go and take pictures. Like, they want to share content on their social media. They want to share their life. They want to share their experiences. So if you create that within your building, then they're more likely to do it. And they're looking for that. Like, they want stuff to do and they want that creativity and they just want things like that to share. That means that they become these viral sales soldiers for you and really promote your store. And so I'd have some signage there too to be sure to tag us and if you have a hashtag that you want them to use. But I was thinking about that and I was scrolling through my phone because I don't know if you're like me, but I will take pictures of like cool retail shops and cool things that businesses are doing. And I was trying to find a specific example for this and I couldn't, but I found some other things that caught my eye as I was scrolling through my phone that was very memorable experiences for me. So the first is whenever I go to Vegas, if I have a little extra time, I like to go to the Venetian because they have that, and I should really know what it's called because I've been there so many times, but they have that like garden kind of center area that they always change out with fresh plants and fresh flowers, and there's always a different theme. And I always love going there. And this summer, when I was speaking there for Super Zoo, Steph, who's on my team, who runs our insider program and has been on the show. I took her there. It was her first time to Vegas, and I'm like, well, we got to go there, and she just loved it. And we were there for a while, taking all these pictures, and obviously, then we're posting those and we're tagging, and then every time I'm going to Vegas, I'm going back to see the new exhibit, and so that is such a cool example of creating an experience that changes, that gets people wanting more and coming back to know, like, how is it unique? How is it different? That makes me think about an episode with George and Bender, um, of Kaiser and Bender. George is speaking at Evolve. We talked about merchandising and how she used to have a store in Chicago, and she had it was near the train station, and she had certain merchandise in the morning for the travelers coming in the morning. Then she would change it and have something else out in the afternoon when they were going home, so it always looked fresh. So I think those kinds of things are a great opportunity to create some of those experiences. Another picture I came across was it was this beautiful night. I was at a podcasting conference, and it was actually at the venue that we have Evolve at the Gaylord in Denver. And if you've ever been to a Gaylord, you know that they are known for experiences, right? Like they're expansive venues and they all kind of have their own themes and feelings. And I feel like they do a good job of pulling in the the local kind of flair. Like, I feel like Denver does a good job of bringing in the mountains, and they have deer and elk and things like that inside, and fireplaces, and it feels lodgy. Well, I was there in August for a podcasting conference, and so I grabbed a glass of wine and I went outside just to decompress, like, after a long day of learning. I just needed to, like, sit and take it in, you know? And so I'm walking the grounds, and there's this big lawn with these chairs, and I just sit down, and it's facing west, so I'm watching the sunset. They have live music, and I'm just listening. I'm by myself, just drinking my wine, listening to this live music, and I'm like, "This is such an incredible moment." I feel like I just was able to kinda ground in and really connect with the day, what I want to achieve with my podcast, where it's going, and then all of a sudden, there was somebody next to me doing the same thing, and he's at the same conference, so we start chatting about our podcasts, and he's been in, like, radio forever, and it was just, like, a really cool way to connect with somebody at the conference. And so, again, it goes back to, like, this is where I feel like independent retailers have such a massive opportunity to stand out and be the store of choice because the consumer has so many choices and be picked over things like big box and Amazon. And look, we're always going to have a place for those from a convenience perspective or price perspective or whatever it is. But you have your physical store location. Most of you, most of the people who listen to Rooted have a store. You have a physical location. So, can you do things like the Venetian that swaps out and has new Instagrammable moments in your store and experiences? Can you create this moment of grounding, of Zen, of connection, a place where people can connect together and meet each other and have coffee, and just connect. I mean, I say this over and over and over again. I think that in 2024, we're going to want connection more than ever. And if you're watching this replay, or if you're live with me, you could chat in like if you agree with me or not about the whole connection side. I just think we're really going to want to connect, especially in person, because of technology, because it's moving so fast. A lot's going to happen with AI this year, guys. Like a lot is going to happen. And honestly, I'm going to have an AI topic at my conference Evolve, and I'm not going to build that thing until about 10 days before the conference, because it's moving so fast. But I just think we're going to want connection. And so my mentor, Jen Gottlieb, often says, be the host of the party. Like, be the person who puts on the party and invites people to come. And that's where retailers are so good at doing your events, right? That I want you to think about that. How can I create that feeling? How can I create connection? How can I create experiences? How can I create Instagrammable moments? And so if you're listening to this on the Facebook group for replay, I would love, or like you're listening to this on the podcast, go over to the Facebook group. Do you have those experiences already in your store? Will you share them? I would love to hear them. Other retailers would love to hear them too. And I am very much coming from a place of, sometimes retailers don't want to share what they're doing. They want to keep it secret. I think that the more we share, the more we can learn from each other, and we all adapt it in our own ways. So we're not knocking people off here. We should just really be authentic to us and what works for our customers and our brand and us. It's so fun when we can connect and collaborate and brainstorm together. So I would love to see you post some pictures or share what you do to create that experience or connection within your store. The final thing I want to say about this, because so many people talk about it on Rooted, like it wasn't just Kathy's episode. So many people talk about the experience. Retailtainment is something that I'm hearing more and I'm seeing more. I'd love to know, are you seeing that more? Retailtainment. So it's all about having this retail element in your store that's creating that entertainment. And obviously, a lot of you do this with events. Another great episode to listen to is Beth Rich, her episode. And Dustin, if you could find that number 2 and put the link in here. And so for anybody that's listening to this on the podcast, you could go over to the Facebook group. We have all the links. Like I'm seeing Dustin post all the links in here. You could get all the links for these episodes I'm recommending. But Beth Rich talks a lot about events. She hosts over 70 events a year. So we definitely have retailtainment happening at Beth Rich's store. Mix it up. I also just want to say, Kathy Cruz is speaking at Evolve. Beth Rich is speaking at Evolve. Jen Gottlieb is speaking at Evolve. Georgianne Bender is speaking at Evolve. Like all these episodes that I am talking about are all my speakers at Evolve, which I didn't plan that. I swear I didn't plan that. That just really worked out. If we could put a link to Evolve for people to learn more too, the closer we get to April 28th and 29th, the actual event, the prices keep going up. So you can learn more at crystalmediaco.com/evolve. But anyways, retailtainment. So we have events. There's a retailer, Serendipity Wellness Spa. I think in Frankfurt, it's a town like that. Jessica runs the store and she is known for this epic Harry Potter event that she does. Like she goes all out and makes the whole spa Harry Potter themed with Harry Potter drinks, and her staff is dressed up, and they just do a really cool, that's like total retailtainment, right? So events, interactive displays, we're going to see a lot more AR, augmented reality displays in 2024, and just creating great environments for like create a feeling in your store. You know what I mean? Like that feeling where people are like, oh, I just love it here. Can't explain it. And that might be really like jazz and grounded and bluesy, or that might be really like funky and colorful and fun, like whatever that brand is, but just really create that within your store. I was doing some research for Evolve content and looking into this retailtainment, and I found this example of IKEA that did a contest on Facebook, and they had 100 winners on Facebook, and it was sort of like seemed kind of like an influencer contest where maybe people had to vote for them. I don't really know how they did the contest, but there were 100 winners. They seemed like they had a decent following, and all 100 winners got to stay the night at IKEA and do a sleepover. And so they got to pick their sheets and their pillows. And so they're trying out the merchandise. I think they got to go home with that. They had a sleep expert there to give tips on sleeping. And then think about the content that you're creating. Like that is epic. And what does that cost IKEA? Right? Like it's just, it was such a brilliant example of retailtainment, something unique, a different experience that can really stand out, that then creates so much buzz, creates social content. It's just so unique, a different way to connect with your customers. All those 100 customers are going to be going and telling all their friends, family, like just a really cool example. So I'll be sharing some of more stuff like that in my content throughout the year and at Evolve. But I just wanted to spend a little time today and after the show to talk about experiences. If you are here live, say hello, chat in. We've got all sorts of links and resources for you. The other thing that so more about Kathy's episode. She mentioned zone of genius. You got to be in your zone of genius. Kathy is so in her zone of genius right now. In fact, on the show, she did mention that she has big news, but she didn't share it on the show because when we filmed this, it was a couple months ago. Well, she recently shared that she is transitioning fully out of the store that she runs with her sister and going all in Savvy Shopkeeper and her membership site and just supporting retailers because she is so in her zone of genius there. She loves it. It fills her up. And she's really making a difference in these retailers' lives. She talks about that decision and everything on her show. So you should definitely go subscribe and listen to Kathy's episode about that. But here on After the Show, I get to answer that question for you. So if you were listening on Sunday and you were like, what's her big change? What is it? That's what it is. So it's so important for us to really know our zone of genius. And I can't stress this enough. Like, I have my team take the Strengths Finder test to really understand what people's strengths are because we want people to do what they're strong in and not what they're weak in. And so if you're doing stuff that you're really weak at, I would try to get rid of it this year. I would try to delegate it. I would try to train somebody else. I would try to get it off your plate because those things can really burn us out and they take up more of our energy. So we have less energy for the things that we love. So really be in your zone of genius. I love she said that. I also love that Kathy talked about email marketing. Very briefly, she talked about it in the resilience round. And I just want to say, like, do you have a nurturing sequence for when people join your email list? Do you even have that email opt-in? That's a really good lead magnet, like so good they would pay for it, really epic offer. Do you have a sales sequence? Are you emailing at least every other week, but ideally weekly? I'm going to be talking more about email marketing in 2024. Like I always talk about it in my sessions and from stage, but we talk a lot about social media and then a little bit about email marketing. Hello, Heidi, or the Polka Dots team in Winter Garden. Welcome to our live stream on After the Show. I'm happy you're here. And so the reason why I pulled out specifically email marketing from Kathy's episode this week is there's so much power in email marketing. Like when you combine it with social media, use social media to build your list. You really should be promoting that you have this like special email that everybody needs to be on. Or maybe it's your text marketing platform, depending on the age and your customers. But this is where we're seeing more of the transactions happen is typically on your emails versus your social. So I just wanted to kind of echo. Hi, Miranda. Welcome. Miranda says, love your podcast. Thank you for listening. And thank you for sharing that. That means the world to me. So I just wanted to echo that what Kathy said. Email marketing, you're going to hear more of it. And just behind the scenes too, because this is what we're going to do here on After the Show. You get like insider scoops on things. Is we're exploring how we could get involved more with your email marketing. So is it education? Is it done for you? We're going to be exploring, and we are going to be sending out a survey to our full list at Crystal Media to just get more information from you. What do you need? If you had a magic genie and it waved that wand and said, I want this as it relates to your marketing and growing your business, what is that? So if you want to chat that in here, if you're watching this, the replay or watching it live, if you want to message me about that, if you're on our Crystal Media list, you'll get that survey. And I'd please fill it out. And we're going to give a couple people some money who fill out the survey. If you're not on our list yet, Dustin, here's another link for you. crystalmediaco.com/rise. That will put you on our Rise and Shine newsletter. It goes out every single Monday. You'll get the newest podcast episode. You'll get a tip of like social media news you need to know from Steph on my team and some cool things other retailers are doing with their social media. So you definitely want to make sure that you are there. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Mike says all the makings of a hit TV show where the ex homicide detective turned shopkeeper helps the police solve retail related crimes. Mike, love it. I should have started the episode that way. Mike, maybe you can give me my intros for after the show. Mike's on my team. He's one of our ads managers. And if you haven't listened to Kathy's episode yet, she's an ex homicide detective turned retailer. Like, what? We need to have Kathy on just to talk about that past life. Like maybe we'll do an Instagram live or another Facebook live and ask those questions. And Heidi says email marketing was a big part of our marketing strategy for 2023, and we are keeping it for this year. The new year, we also read your Rise and Shine newsletter. Awesome. Yes, Heidi, awesome. I think it's Heidi or it's the Polka Dots team, but I'm so happy to hear that you're leveraging email because man, we're just seeing a lot of sales there and a lot of those transactions. The final thing that I want to well, there's two final things I want to pull out with this episode. One, I love, love, love that Kathy was talking about the word feel as it relates to our finances. So she was saying how she'll have her retailers say, I feel like we're down. I feel like sales are down. I feel like the economy is a mess. I feel like fill in the blank. And she's just like, okay, do you know this for a fact? Like, what are your numbers? Are you actually down? And I think that is so critical that when we are feeling certain ways about our business, that we actually do the research, we do the work to figure out if that feeling is valid or not. I mean, how many of you that are listening in the live or the replay, or you're in your car, you could raise your hand if you're listening to the podcast episode where you've been there before, where you're like, I feel like this, but you don't actually know if that's true. Like that has happened to me so many times. As an entrepreneur, there's so much like we have to just do the research, get the facts, and then feel a certain way, right? Like I think that we can cause ourselves so much less stress and overwhelm if that's how we process things. Like for we kind of have our system of first, okay, this is coming up for me. Let me get the real information first. So I just think that was one of the biggest value adds that Kathy gave. And I really encourage you to focus on the facts versus the feeling. And maybe that is a great quote graphic. I like that. That was really great from Kathy. The last thing is I just have to massively echo what Kathy said. In the resilience round, I asked her, what's one thing you would do different? And I don't know about you. I love that question. I love people's answers. It's such a fun addition, I think, to the resilience round. But she said, hands down, like she was very enthusiastic about this, hands down, what she would do differently is invest in herself sooner. And I want to echo that because it's so funny. I am doing this transformation challenge on Monday, the 15th, live. You can catch that replay, like I mentioned in the beginning of this episode. And I am talking about how like the things that skyrocketed me and investing in myself was a really big one. I significantly invested in myself last year and this year already. I've already spent some dollars on myself to show up differently, to mastermind, to get coaching. I'm in a really great group and I'm learning a lot and I show up differently when I invest in myself. And there are people out there that are experts and know things that I don't. They've been through it before. I haven't. And so we have to invest in ourselves. I think one thing Kathy said on the show is imagine where I would be if I did this decades ago. And so I wanted to end today's episode talking about that because it's the beginning of the year. And I think that there's an opportunity for you, my dear listeners, to look at your budget, look at how are you investing in yourself in 2024. Do you need coaching, a mastermind, a conference like Evolve? Do you need education, a course? Does your team need that? Like, what do you need to show up to be a better leader, to be more focused, to hit those goals that you want to achieve, or even like people to help push you further? That's for me when I joined my mastermind and invested on, I bet on me. I showed up differently and I was having people show me bigger visions of myself that they saw for me that I couldn't see because it's so hard to see the picture when we're in the frame. It is so hard to see the picture when we are in the frame. And something I'm very excited about is for the longest time, I wanted to create a retreat. Like I just love connecting in person and creating transformation. And I wanted to be the person outside of retailers' frames, looking in and saying, okay, here's what you've got, helping them through systems that I've been through, where you want to go, and then reflecting that back and then brainstorming and maybe even thinking bigger for them and challenging them and pushing them and supporting them along the way and giving them the tools they need and helping them map out things for 2024 as it relates to marketing and how they're using AI. Like I am the expert in those areas and really supporting them. So we're doing that at our Oasis of Opportunity retreat, which I'll have us link to that as well. It's crystalmediaco.com/oasis. This is very intimate, though. There's a chance that if you are listening to this replay, tickets are sold out. Because as I'm filming this right now, we only have 8. And I'm going to talk about it next week on this challenge. But I'm really excited to do more of that exclusive opportunity and give retailers an opportunity to invest in themselves in a much bigger way. It changed my life. It changed my business. Just like Kathy said, imagine where I would be decades ago if I did this. I can't echo that enough. Invest in yourself in 2024. However that looks, get really clear on the holes that you are lacking or the things that you need, you're missing in your life and in your business to help you show up in a big way in 2024. And look, and maybe you don't want to show up in a big way, but maybe you want to show up in a way that's more productive, a way where you have more time, a way that you're just making more money, a way that you're a better leader, a way that you're a community leader, like whatever that looks like for you. There's a lot of resources out there, and our retreat is one of them. But I love this conversation with Kathy, and I'm excited to have her at Evolve. And she, like I said, go check out her podcast. She's got a lot of great things happening over there. I am checking my notes. Okay, so next week. Oh, well, first, what was your big takeaway from Kathy's episode? You could chat it in here, whether you're live or the replay, or DM me on Instagram. What was your number one takeaway from Kathy's episode? I want to hear, because here's the deal too. I know this means like you've got to chat it in right now, or you've got to be vulnerable and you got to share your takeaway, which if that's scary, if it's kind of a deeper takeaway, you could always DM me on Instagram. But I want to hear these things. I'd love it if you take the time to share with me because it helps me find guests for the show and it helps find the topics that you want to help you go deeper, because this is an example of investing in yourself. You're investing time in your business and in yourself by being here at Rooted in Retail. And I want it to be worth your investment. So please share with me what your number one takeaway was of Kathy's episode. And next week, we have Josh Orr. He is our e-com specialist and friend over at Capital Commerce. Of course, we're talking about e-com. We're talking about how to bridge that online and offline experience, what he predicts for 2024 trends, some ways that you can increase your conversions if you do have an e-com site. So you're definitely going to want to tune in for that episode and then join me after the show with your questions and your thoughts for that show. Just a reminder, if you haven't signed up for our 3-day transformation challenge, you can do so at crystalmediaco.com/transform. The replay will be available if you can't make it live. And to conclude here, I just want to say that, well, first, Mike says, I really liked don't listen to the I feel and I think, check the numbers. Yep. Thank you, Mike, for sharing your feedback. I completely agree. That was such a good takeaway. I want to leave this show and ask a huge favor. If you are loving Rooted in Retail, will you leave a review? If you listen on Apple, the way you do it is go into the podcast app. You go to the show. You have to first rate it with the stars. So you could do 1 to 5 stars. I hope it's a 5-star experience. And then you can leave your review right there. And it can be short and sweet. You don't have to write a big novel here. Just share how you feel about the show, or if there's a specific episode. You can even leave multiple reviews. If there was like one guest where you're like, this was so good, you can talk about it and share, hey, this episode, love this guest. And if you're on Spotify, if you listen over there, you can do a Q&A and share your feedback over there too. So totally, it just helps the show from the Apple algorithm, from the Spotify algorithm, and it gives me feedback to see if you're enjoying the show and what you're liking about it. So that means the world to me. All right. Let me just make sure we're good. We did it. So I'm 5 minutes. These are ideally going to be 20 to 30 minutes long. So we're about 5 minutes past. But thank you so much for those of you who joined me live on the very first after the show. I hope to see many more of you in the future, 5 o'clock Tuesdays. Sometimes we might need to change that. So just be sure that you check the group because I do travel a lot. So if those get changed, we'll share in the Facebook group. We'll give an announcement there. And I hope to see you in the Facebook group, and I'll see you next week. Enjoy, and remember that I'm rooting for your success. Bye.